We all know that we need to practice in order to improve. That sounds quite self-evident, but no one really has a clear idea of what they should be practicing in order to actually improve at the guitar. This lack of clarity can waste us years and leave us uncertain on whether we're actually making decent progress on the instrument or not. So by the end of this video, I'm going to provide you clarity on what you should be practicing on your instrument. If you don't know who I am, I help intermediates become advanced players. This is what I used to sound like as an intermediate, and I didn't really have a very clear practice routine. However, with enough time and dedication on the instrument, I did actually manage to improve and scale up my practice routine and learn some new things that actually developed my guitar playing. So I've been in your shoes before. I know how to get out of them. I remember what it was like being stuck in that intermediate stage. This is how I got good at guitar. My name is Fabian Dolan. I've had 10 years of experience on the instrument, 10,000 hours played, many students taught in the past. Check out the Discord. There is a link below in the description if you want to join a community of like-minded guitarists. Your practice routines need to be orientated around a specific goal, right? The more specific your goal is on the instrument, the easier it's going to be to make progress, right? You need to have a very specific goal, a goal that's more specific than becoming a better player, right? Everyone wants to be better at the guitar. However, when you're too vague about what your goal actually is, it becomes very difficult to make progress, and it seems like you're just practicing things aimlessly and you're playing with no kind of sense of future direction on how to improve. You also need to make sure that your goals are set to impress yourself and no one else, right? You want to progress on the instrument in order to satisfy your own desire rather than try to impress other guitarists, right? Don't waste your time learning how to sweep pick if you're never going to use it in your playing, right? For example, if you're a blues player and you just want to play a really nice blues solo, that's what you want to do. You want to get good at blues. What's the point of learning sweep picking? And sweep picking, it only really impresses other guitarists, right? At the end of the day, the person that listens to music and enjoys music, they just want to hear good music. They don't care how it's done. They don't care how technical you are on the guitar. They just want you to sound good and proficient at music. And this sweep picking stuff, it might sound good to the other person, but like the person that also knows nothing about music will find like an Eric Clapton solo really interesting, right? So it doesn't matter about all these advanced techniques. You're only learning them to show off to other guitarists. And at the end of the day, you're going to make the most progress when you learn to impress yourself and do things that you genuinely care about on the instrument. Every guitarist has different goals. There is no one size fits all. Every guitarist has a different set of goals, and there is a no one size fits all practice routine that works for every genre. This is why, personally, you have to figure out for yourself what your practice routine should be looking like. Now, today, I'm going to help you with that. I'm going to help guide you along the process. However, this is going to be different for every single guitarist watching. Now, there might be some similar overlaps between a lot of guitarists. However, again, everyone has different goals and enjoys different genres, so it has to be personally tailored to you. Now, you're never going to be able to hit a target if you never take aim in the first place. So it's very important to figure out what you desire to achieve on the instrument in order for you to improve in the first place. You have to have a sense of direction. You've got to know where you want to go. You've got to be specific about what you're aiming for. For example, if you wanted to bend like David Gilmour, practice your bends and overbending and learning your scales and the positions in which you can do those overbends, right? You need to be very specific about the techniques you are trying to implement into your playing in order to improve, and then organize your practice routine around those specific techniques. If you don't know what you want to improve on, if you're currently stuck on this, ask yourself, what is one aspect of your playing that you wish you could fix, right? To become great, you want to work on fixing your weaknesses first, rather than enhancing your strengths. You want to get to a point where you kind of don't really have any weaknesses on the guitar, and then at that point you can start accentuating your natural strengths on the instrument. However, you're going to reach a kind of plateau on the guitar, a very large plateau, if you never work on your weaknesses. So a great place to start, if you don't know what to practice at the moment, is to think about your weaknesses. What problem do you wish you could get rid of in your playing at the moment? That's a great question to ask yourself. If you constantly practice something you're already comfortable with, there's going to be a very low return on investment out of practicing that further. You're already good at it. You don't need to practice it anymore. You need to start practicing things you are currently not so good at. I'm going to share with you a process that has worked for me over the past 10 years of learning the instrument. And personally, I've always been inspired by great guitarists. I'm pretty sure you have as well, if you've picked up this instrument. My goal was to be able to play like someone like Jimi Hendrix or John Mayer or Frank Zappa. The list goes on. I'm just giving you a few examples, right? What you want to do is focus on one guitarist that really inspires you, and you want to try and mimic their style completely. Pretend you are that guitarist and you are playing exactly like them. Not in the sense that you're just playing covers of their songs note for note, but you're trying to do impressions of these guitarists. And when you play a solo over a backing track, you imagine that Jimi Hendrix is doing that solo, and you play in the style of Jimi Hendrix, right? You want to do impressions of other people. Figure out what scales they use and learn them. Like, for example, Jimi Hendrix was really into his blues scale and his minor pentatonic scales, major pentatonic as well. Focus on them. Get really deep into those pentatonic scales, and then figure out what chord shapes they use in their chord progressions in their songs. Like, for example, Jimi Hendrix, he had a special shape that he used on bar chords where he didn't play the whole entire bar chord. He used his thumb around the top fret. Still those kind of chord shapes and those chord voicings that these guitarists use. Again, this is going to be different for every single guitarist. And then listen to their phrasing and articulation and mimic that. Try and do impressions. It's the exact same way that, like, when a comedian might do an impression of a celebrity to tell a joke. It's the same thing going on. You're mimicking someone else's voice and then using that to say something different in the same kind of way that they would say it, right? You want to be able to mimic someone else's playing. This is going to greatly improve your playing. And when you repeat this process for, like, let's say around 5 different guitarists, I guarantee you're going to be a much more advanced player for having gone in depth for all these other guitarists and looked at their unique stylistic differences and kind of integrating them into your playing. And then once you can kind of, you have a massive pool of information to draw from, you can combine those all together, and you can use your own stylistic influence on how you kind of mix and match those techniques. And you're going to be so much closer to unlocking your own unique sound. Get very specific with the details of a certain player, right? Focus on how someone uses one single technique and master that before moving on to someone else. So, for example, like Jimi Hendrix, focus on how he uses chords and inversions. Get that down. Make sure you focus on that. Get that really good. Get that down to a really good detail, to a really good standard, and then move on to another technique, right? For example, for me, I was really into Jerry Garcia for a while, and I wanted to learn how to play like him. So I looked at what scales he was using. It turned out he was using this scale called the Mixolydian scale. So I learned what that was, how to apply it into my playing, and then how to phrase it the same way that Jerry Garcia would. And then before I knew it, I was actually playing pretty close to Jerry Garcia. I could mimic his style. Don't try to learn everything at once though, because you're going to become overwhelmed. Just focus on one specific detail. Again, this is quite inspiring. It was at least quite inspiring for me when I was trying to learn how to play the instrument, because I could make progress quite quickly on sounding like my favorite players, and that's quite inspiring. Now, Now, the fastest way to improve at the instrument is always slow, unfortunately. We're always looking for like a really nice shortcut in order to slingshot our playing forward and advanced within a year's worth of time in just a few like months or weeks. Unfortunately, that's not always realistic, right? The fastest way to improve is always slow. You will get more out of practicing 5 minutes for every day for a month compared to practicing 150 minutes once a month, right? Playing the guitar consistently is the most important part of practice. It's doing it regularly. Then focusing on what you actually do during those 5 minutes regularly is important then. But if you're not practicing the instrument regularly, that's definitely the most important part. Focus on that first before the actual specifics of what you practice after that. Don't dive in the deep end if you can't swim. Set yourself up for success by gradually increasing the difficulty of what you're learning. If you're learning a complex riff or a song, make sure you play it at a very slow tempo first. If you're learning a new scale shape, don't rush your way through the entire thing. Give yourself time for your fingers to understand what you are learning first. Go through it slowly. Go embarrassingly slow. Treat yourself like you are an idiot and you can't play the guitar at all yet, right? You want to go slower than you think you have to. And then that means it's going to be easy for your fingers to actually figure out where they're supposed to be going on the fretboard. And once it's stupidly easy to do something, you can then level it up a bit more. You know you have a foundation that you definitely can achieve. Once you got that, turn the speed up a slight amount and make it slightly more difficult, and then before you know it, you're going to be playing it at full speed with perfect technique. You need to start slow. Don't rush your way through this. This has been how I got good at guitar. If you still suck after this lesson, don't struggle alone. Book a call with me. There is a link in the description. I'm taking on guitar students and I'm going to make you an advanced player. So if you sound interested in that, check the link in the description. Respect for making it towards the end of the video. You can also watch another one over here and subscribe for more high quality guides.